So you're thinking about running, but not sure how to take the first step. My name is Brian Patterson, and I'm here to help. Welcome to Brian's Run Pod. Welcome back to Brian's Run Pod, and it's me, your host, Brian Patterson, for another great podcast episode all about running. And this week is the second part of my discussion with Dominic Stead, who's the co-founder of Sporting Feet, a retail shop which is in Richmond, got one in Richmond, Surrey, and also one in London, which is in Putney. As you will agree with me, if you haven't listened to the first episode, then please do. And it's a really enlightening episode all about how he, went to university, did marketing, and how he got the idea of, how he went into advertising, media and advertising, and then decided to go into sports retail. Anyway, in this episode, we explore the importance of finding the right footwear for runners, how proper fitting can transform lives, the common misconceptions around shoe sizing, the evolution of brands, and the significance of local running shops in fostering community and providing personalised service. So I hope you enjoy this episode. If you didn't listen to the first episode, then please do. And I hope you really enjoy this episode. And thanks very much for listening. I mean, is there anything in particular that they're getting wrong, or is it just that
type of shoe, whether it provides support or not for overpronation or not, is really common. People tend to buy shoes if someone's recommended them. The most common thing is a friend will recommend it. I love these shoes; they're great.
Yeah.
What we know is that everybody's different.
Yeah.
But we'll get people coming to the shop saying, "Oh, my friends swear by Hoka." Okay, well, let's have a look at your feet. Hoka's a great brand, but should we have a look? Should we scan your feet, look at the width of your feet, look at the length of your feet, and test you and see what's particular about you, what's unique about you, and we can try and recommend the right shoes based on that. And that's our approach, really. It's pretty straightforward, but it requires a bit of care and effort, particularly around the fitting, actually. Yeah. I think this is the bit that a lot of people don't get right. Certainly on their own, they don't get it right. Most people don't know what size feet they've got. Why would they?
Yeah.
They probably haven't had their feet properly measured since they were a kid. Someone told them they think they're a size 9, so they're a size 9. So, the most common fault is just people are in shoes that are way too small for them.
Yeah.
And the running shoes, we were just talking about the evolution of the shoes and the technology over the last 10 years plus. They've got lighter, faster, smaller, the way they fit, maybe less durable. But they perform better, but they fit small. And, season to season, they can change in the way they fit as well. So this is one of the things that, we got absolutely right about the business. There's no substitute for trying them on and trying them on in the presence of someone who knows a bit about footwear and running footwear and other sports footwear as well, but particularly running. And it makes a huge difference. I love the fact that, it doesn't matter what demographic you're talking about. It doesn't matter what age group. It is true for everybody. A little bit of help, especially if it's free, goes a long way. And, I just love that. I love the impact that we can have on people, especially the youngsters, actually, because they often come in thinking, "Oh, we can just we could buy it online, or we'll have that one. That one looks good."
Yeah,
and they don't really realise until they've spent 10, 15 minutes with you what value you can add.
Yeah,
and
do you think,
because we do genuinely add value,
20 so years back, I'm just thinking about the emergence of, Nike and, with the Air Jordan and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I know Adidas and Puma have been around for years and years and years. So,
they have.
But I mean, it's that people now aren't so tied to the brand. Although in saying that, I've had New Balance for the last few years, and that there are other manufacturers.
I think people are tied to brand. I think people sometimes are, but I think they're open
Yeah.
especially if they come into an environment like ours and other running specialists. They're open to other brands. They're and obviously because of power of marketing, there are other brands out there that are maybe not quite as well known as the Nikes and Adidas of this world, but Asics, Brooks, New Balance,
Yeah.
On. There's a lot of brands out there that do have credibility,
Yeah.
and most people will have heard of them, I think.
Yeah.
But not everybody. I mean, we still get people coming in saying, "Oh, I've never heard of Brooks." Brooks is our leading
Yeah.
running brand. But I think the credibility that they see all the staff wearing them, they see other people coming to the shop, wearing them and coming for another pair and stuff. I mean, I think people are open to it. I definitely think that. And in fact, that's a really interesting debate because Nike, of course, are a huge brand, but there is a sort of pertinent story in Nike. Nike don't work with most of the running specialists, most of the smaller running specialists, and that's their choice actually initially. And I think it's backfired on them. If you look at their
Right.
numbers in financial results over the last year or so, their
Yeah.
whole what they call D2C, direct to consumer
You're right.
approach, cutting out everybody bar and other people they really couldn't cut out,
Yeah.
has actually not worked. In fact, it's had a really negative effect on the business. So I think
Yeah.
they're busily trying to put that back together. But of course, once you tell customers, we are their customers. Tell customers, other retailers, you don't want to work with them anymore. Particularly if you tell them in the way that companies like Nike do. They're not in a hurry to welcome you back. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But they've also, at the same time they did that, this is when brands like Hoka and On, and the brands that are already had their got their act together, like Brooks and New Balance,
Yeah.
and Asics to some extent. They've stolen the march, but particularly brands like Hoka and On, I think for the younger generation, and those two brands straddle performance and fashion as well. If you want to be a super, multi-billion-pound brand, I'm afraid you can't just do it on performance. You have to do it on brand as well, and fashion. So hence retailers like JD, and they're huge. They don't really sell running shoes to runners, but there are running shoes in there. But they're normally because they look cool,
Right.
and people buy them because they look cool. So there's a huge sneaker industry out there, isn't there, beyond what we do?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and actually, that side of the business is bigger than the performance side of the business.
Yeah.
But it's not where we want to be. But obviously that's a big part of Nike's success as well. So they've lost out to those brands on the fashion side as well as the performance side.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting lesson. It's not all about direct to consumer and just selling through your own shops and online. I think that is a mistake. I always thought it was a mistake. I didn't really understand why they didn't have a small team of really smart people serving our sector of the industry to make sure that
Nike
their
or
best shoes.
yeah.
Nike. Why they don't have their best shoes in shops like ours. But I'm glad they don't, because I don't really want to work with them. My experience of working in the past was not great. They're just
All right.
not interested. And we're
Do
working.
you think they're a bit
suppliers and partners?
Yeah, sort of look down on the smaller
bit aloof,
retailers.
bit arrogant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they tended to be. Kind of assume that you'll buy what they tell you to buy, and that's not right. Most of our peers, businesses like us, are. It's the owners that run the business. It's their money, literally their money. So you need to feel a little bit like you're a partner.
Yes.
And actually, that's the reason why Brooks has been the leading brand in a lot of running specialists over the last 10 years or so, because they really have understood that and built a partnership with companies over the years, and it's paid off for them.
I know that one of the things I've been guilty of is I'll buy a shoe and I'll say, I'm just going to use it for running. And then I'll end up using it for, walking to work or, at work or that kind of thing. Only because I can't remember the last time I wore, I can't remember the last time I wore leather shoes. So, and it's just.
Well, that's true. That's a very good point as well, isn't it? Of the working from home, again, post-COVID. It's probably another reason why
wasted miles, they say, or something. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's been popular because people wear trainers a lot more of the time. They don't need, here we are having a call with each other, we both look fairly business-like from the neck upwards.
Yeah.
Who knows what we're wearing? That's what it is, isn't it? And people
Yeah.
working from home, they don't need to be so smart anymore. So yeah, those sectors must have suffered a bit, I think. But yeah, so we sell a lot of trainers to people who aren't necessarily running.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm really proud of is how good we are with the older age groups. We have a lot of people coming in with sore feet, and we can help them. We can help them with a wider fit New Balance shoe, maybe an insole, with some advice. So actually, it sounds a bit of an overstatement, but we've had people come into our shops. We do have our customers coming in regularly saying, "You know what, you've really changed my life because I can get out and about again."
Right.
I was really starting to suffer.
That's good to hear.
Struggle.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to persuade these people. I've never worn a pair of trainers in my life. How am I going to? I don't want a pair of trainers really.
No.
But actually, when you try them on, they realise actually, what, this is it's transformational to some extent. I had a customer a couple of weeks ago who'd from the military who'd had a quite serious accident and had to have foot reconstruction surgery. And he came in to see us about a month ago, actually, in the Putney shop.
Yeah.
And he said, "Look, I just want to try to get back to running. It's been 2.5 years. And my doctor's now signed me off and said you could try. And obviously one of his feet, just really didn't look like a conventional foot. Can you help me?"
Right.
I honestly think we were one of the only retailers who could have helped him. And I know he came to us because he'd got friends who'd been to us and they thought we might be able to help them. And yeah, we scanned his feet, had a look, and because of the sort of knowledge that we have of the footwear market as well, we were able to order him a very wide New Balance running shoe. And I took a risk on it actually because I just thought it was such a touching story. If we get stuck with this size 14 4E shoe, we'll sell it to someone eventually. But, if he doesn't like it, then we are going to get stuck with it for a while. But anyway, it partly again because we've done this kind of thing many, many times. We were able to order something for him that worked really well. And the look on his face when he was wearing those trainers, I thought, what, actually, I may be able to run in these. I'm certainly going to be able to fast walk, and I may be able to run.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons we do it. We do get, that's a particularly extreme example, but we do get lots of examples where we're sort of helping people. Obviously, we're in business to make a profit, but it is nice if what you do actually genuinely does help
change
people.
Someone's life. Yeah.
Yeah, and it can do. At the extreme level, it really can, particularly with that older demographic or people recovering from, accidents and operations and things. It really can. The fact that you're not, we all know this, don't we? If you're not mobile, the effect that has on your mental health is dramatic. And so we are definitely helping people with that, and we help people with a lot of beginners who come in running, who might not really look like a runner, and they're doing it partly to lose weight and just to get fit and help their mental health side of things. It's amazing how transformative it can be running.
Yeah.
The number of times we recommend a couch to 5K, and the sort of people who conquer it, it's incredible.
Yeah.
All in some, you don't have to run it in 20, run a 5K in 20 minutes. It really doesn't matter, does it? And that's also the ethos, of course, behind Parkrun, which is so wonderful. But the idea that you could get round, might walk some of it, and you might run some of it, but just the health impact of that is wonderful.
And also, I like the fact that on your website you do sort of advertise, the local events. I mean, like Parkrun, there's always on every, so it's either at Richmond or
we absolutely. We try and help people. That's we're very much part of the community, so we have great relationships with a lot of good running groups and organisations. That's helped us over the years a lot. We always try and cooperate. If local schools want some kind of raffle prize, we always say yes. It doesn't have to be much, but we always say yes. And the impact of the communities on our business has been significant, and I think we played our part in those communities as well. But we have really good relationships with quite a lot of running clubs and get involved in a lot of events. They're quite good fun, those things. But they also add quite a lot of value to the business, I think. Have helped us with our growth over the years. So, yeah, we don't underestimate the importance of those things. But at the same time, we know that we have a business to run, so we have to tread the line really and balance. So we don't have our own running group, for example. A lot of running retailers do.
Yeah.
That's partly because we just feel we'd like to have a relationship with lots of different running groups. And actually, we're a retailer, not a running group. So,
Yeah.
if you're not careful, you concentrate on things that it's hard enough to run a good, successful business. And sometimes you can get a little bit distracted by those things. So it's a balance, really. We've always liked to try and be friends with lots of people rather than necessarily run our own running groups. But yeah, and the other beauty of
do you do where you may have people like suppliers coming in or various people coming in and maybe do talks with?
Yeah, we've done a lot of that over the years.
Yeah.
Do as much of that as we used to be honest with you. And I suppose if I'm going to be really pragmatic about it, I think those things take quite a lot of organisation.
Yeah.
Don't always necessarily deliver that much.
Right.
I think in the early days, it was really important for us to do more of that. Now we have to reach out to the community in different ways, not necessarily go to events. It's just, actually the funny thing is, as the shops have got busier and busier over the years, we just don't have enough staff. We have more staff than we've ever had, and we need them in the shops. And long may that continue. So to do a race as well, it's just very difficult. So we do still do it a few times. We can, but we just don't. We have to focus on the right things, which is we've got a lot of people going to the shops. I'll give you an example. We have a nice relationship with the Runfest team. So we have a good system where we help each other when their races are coming up. We do number collection for them, race number collection for them. So people come to our, they collect their race numbers in different ways, but some people like to come to a local running shop and collect them that way. And so that delivers a lot of footfall for us, but also we're doing a job for the race organizer. So that's a really smart way of having something that works for both of us. So we're involved in that race, and we might provide some prizes, but we're not actually at the race. That's, so there's finding ways to cooperate and work together that deliver value for both, really, rather than necessarily always being there. So it's a balance, really. But we don't underestimate the importance of community. And also for us, because we're across other sports, we can have relationships with tennis clubs and alike, and we do. And so, that's an important part of the business, always has been, and we always try and spend some time on that kind of thing and developing those kind of relationships.
What do you see as the sort of trends, going forward?
Let's take a quick break.
Hi, Brian and Brian's Runboard listeners. I'm Merrily, author of Just Run. Just Run is the perfect gift for every runner or anyone thinking about starting running in 2025. In my book, I share my journey from barely hitting 3,000 steps a day to becoming an ultra runner in just a few years. A few months ago, I completed my first 100-mile race. Just Run is packed with practical tips for beginner runners. Running is for everyone. You don't have to be fast to go far. You just need to run your own way. That's what Just Run is all about. You can grab your copy on Amazon, including on Kindle Unlimited, or get a signed copy from my website, merrilyruns.co.uk. Feel free to reach out to me on my website or through my socials at merrilyruns.
Hey, this is Andrea, popping up from Sydney, Australia to say hello and to thank Brian for creating a forum which is so beneficial for those of us who are seeking a richer experience of running. If you're like me, you probably run for a host of reasons. These might include time alone, mental health, personal accomplishments, or maybe reclaiming a sense of self, possibly for the first time in a long time. And you might have noticed that the narrative around running is also changing. Until recent years, you probably mostly heard it talked about through the lens of metrics, things like getting faster, getting stronger, getting thinner, getting better, getting a spot on the podium. But thanks to voices like Brian's, more and more, we're starting to think about running as a means to becoming a better person, to enjoying the morning, to achieving a fundraising goal, or maybe just making yourself proud. And if that sounds like you and you're interested in getting some coaching support for whatever your running journey looks like, I invite you to take a look at Run with the Slow Coach. I host a global coaching community for older, slower, bigger, injured, and back-of-the-pack runners. I'm fully accredited through Athletics Australia. I'm endorsed by the Australian Trail and Ultra Runners Association. And in 2023, I won a local business award for the most outstanding fitness service. I coach online and I promise to keep you accountable because I know what it takes to start a running journey, especially if you're not talented or you haven't been active your whole life. And I believe that runners like us deserve all the science, all the rigor, all the empathy, and especially all the support to safely progress to whatever your finish line looks like. And I'm really here for that. So find out more by following me on socials at Run with the Slow Coach or visit runwiththeslowcoach.com. I really am passionate about the life-changing benefits of being active. And I'm grateful to Brian for everything he does in this space. And now, back to you. Thanks so much.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Big question.
Yeah.
I do think that there is a place for good retail, and I think we have our kind of business, and others are like us, because it's more, if you like, is experiential, and there's a sort of point to going there. You're going to get some value from going there. I do think that retail, hopefully, will still exist in that way, but there'll probably be less retail. It's just obvious, isn't it? Unfortunately, the sort of middle of the market retailers that don't provide a lot of added value,
Right.
they're the ones that have suffered most in the last 5 to 10 years in the tough environment that is retail. I think more specialist and more experiential, there'll be a role for them. I don't think you can stop the rise of online.
No,
I think you have to work with it.
Yeah,
So online is
like
a
you've
more
proved.
important
So
part of our
yeah.
business.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more important part of our business. And we probably expect it to be somewhere between 5 and 10% of our business this year. So that's a good balance because it's not insignificant, but it's obviously still clear that 90% of our business is about our face-to-face retail business, our bricks and mortar business, which is the bit that we're most passionate about.
Yeah.
And as I say, I think the future is reasonably rosy in the sense that you just see all these generations coming in. So the younger generations, they come in, don't get me wrong, they come in with their phones in their hands. They're looking at the website, they're looking at the manufacturer's website at the same time as they're looking at your shoe on the wall.
Yeah.
More broadly speaking, it's the same price, so that's good.
Yeah.
It's not like it's way cheaper online. It shouldn't be really with the latest products from the kind of suppliers we work with. But sometimes it can be a rogue retailer out there online selling it much cheaper. Also, there's myriad colours that you probably haven't got them all in every size. Why would you? It's too expensive to do that. So it's not without its challenges. But I think if you add value, customers will still mostly want to do business with you. So we find ourselves ordering quite a lot of one-off shoes for people. If they love the shoe we've got, but they don't want the colour we've got.
Yeah.
They want another colour. But we can normally get it. Not always, but mostly we can. And customers, because we've spent 15, 20 minutes with them and added quite a lot of value, normally quite patient and don't want to give us the business. So we end up ordering it for them.
Yeah.
But I think the future is, it's hard to say. Obviously, technology is moving so fast, isn't it? And things like AI, are clearly going to make it a little easier to sell this kind of stuff online. To have kind of virtual fittings and this kind of stuff is, that technology already exists.
But it's only based on what's happened in the past, though, isn't it? That's the thing.
Yeah. I still believe that if it's better done face to face by people who know what they're doing.
Yes.
Providing you do genuinely know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And, we're not alone. There's a lot of good running retailers out there in the UK. Yeah. Not loads, but enough to make you fairly confident in this. that there's a future for them. I think the problem is, the challenge is that everything gets more global. Yeah, so the brands are getting bigger, and so that's the challenge, I think, for smaller retailers like us. How do we remain important to a huge, multi-billion-pound brand? Will they still think we're important if we're all sort of separate and doing our own thing? So that's that's probably our biggest challenge. 5 to 10 year industry is whether we can survive like that. But at the moment, prognosis is good. Our performance over the last few years, took us a few years to make a profit. That was another challenge we faced. But we stuck with it because we thought we would eventually. And now, again, touch wood, and we work hard at it, but we've never been more successful in a way, in our own small way. The business is growing quite fast, more profitable than it's ever been. And that's wonderful, isn't it? But you can't, you have to keep ahead of the game. Can't assume that's always going to be the case. But certainly as I say, really, post-COVID, those growth numbers, and I know it's the same for a lot of other retailers because I speak to them, and it's quite healthy. This sector's quite healthy,
good,
which is wonderful.
Yeah. Now, I know for our American listeners, you are in Ted Lasso capital.
Oh, we are.
We
are.
Do you get that?
I think that's been quite good news.
Yeah. Do you get? And I do have American listeners, but I mean, do you get that footfall from that?
We do.
They overspill.
Yeah, because our shop is really close to.
It's really close to where he's. Where his so-called flat is. As it were,
yeah. We've considered selling Ted Lasso merchandise, but we decided not to. But we could probably sell it.
You probably could,
But yeah, I think it's probably been quite good for football. Football is tricky because you want footfall, but you want the right footfall.
Yes.
This is always the challenge, for small shops like ours with 3 or 4 people in there serving.
Yeah.
The problem is you get this deluge of people coming in, and you're not sure which of them came in first. You're not sure which of them really a serious buyer or not. But you can't be rude to people. You've got to treat them all as if they're the same. And they all are potential buyers, but of course some of them are just literally on a Ted Lasso tour. They're not interested in buying running shoes at all. But you can't
I know when I went in there the other Sunday, it was rammed. It was really packed.
It can be. I mean, again, it's we're very good at managing that. Again, it's because we're used to it. There's certain behaviours. We run this business. We try and learn from our mistakes. We try and run this business like a bigger business, even though it's a smallish business. And so we have ways of doing things, ways of greeting people, the things that we say to them, behaviours that we train in our staff to try and sort of work our way through that situation. But yes, it can be. Suddenly you go from, nobody in the shop to 10 people in the shop, and there's only 4 people serving, so you can't serve them all at once. How do you navigate that? Nice problem to have, but it is nevertheless a bit of a problem. So you have to work your way through it. But I find that if you just talk to people and you're honest and you say, "Look, I'm not sure who came in next. Who came in first? I think it might have been you." They're normally, most people are reasonable, aren't they? And they'll help you with that. And most people accept that you want to serve people in the order that they came in through the shop, through the door. And most people are okay with that. But yeah, it can get a bit hairy.
It can. Gosh, we've nearly come to an hour of the podcast, but I just wanted to. I sent some quick fire questions, which I sent to you yesterday. I don't know if you had a chance to have a look at it. One of the things I did wanted to ask you: do you have a sporting icon
or hero?
Hero, yeah.
Sporting hero?
Yeah, hero.
Yeah, I do. I've got quite a few, really.
Yeah,
sports I like, but I picked Jack Nicklaus actually in golf.
Oh, right. The bear.
E-sport these days. I just think he was, the golden bear.
Yeah.
Because, his record, it's a bit like football in the Premier League. People who sort of existed before the Premier League, like Jimmy Greaves.
Yeah.
You and I are probably both old enough.
I know. I remember him.
I don't remember it.
Yeah.
I never watched him play because I'm not quite that old. But I'm well aware of him. Got the best goal scoring record of, never mind Alan Shearer. But he existed who everyone's forgotten about. A bit like Jack Nicklaus with Tiger Woods. People have forgotten about Jack Nicklaus, but he's won the most majors, and he won 18 majors. But when you dig down into his record, incredibly, he came second 19 times. So not only did he win 18 times, he came second 19 times. Incredible. And 5 of those were in a playoff. So he could easily have won those. And in those days, you didn't just have a 3-hole playoff; you had an 18-hole playoff the next day.
Yeah.
So his record's incredible, and he's quite well remembered for a very sporting gesture that he did in the Ryder Cup in 1969, where he conceded a putt to half a match with Tony Jack. So yeah, great winner, but also very sporting. Yeah, the Golden Bear is probably one of my sporting heroes. I've got lots of them. Pick that.
And what else did I ask you? I've got the questions in front of me.
Well, you asked me favourite sporting moment.
Yes, yeah.
I'm going to pick. My football team, Watford. Quite a famous match that I was at in 2013 in the playoff semi-final against Leicester.
Oh, right.
I don't know if you've ever seen. Are you into your football? Do you remember the Deeney goal?
Well, I am a Man City supporter, so I have.
You've always been a Man.
I have since the 70s. In fact, I remember.
Fair enough.
So I watched them. My dad took me to see them in '67, playing against Chelsea.
Oh, wow, okay, yeah.
And that's when Summerby, Bell. I mean, they had an amazing team then.
Francis Lee,
yeah. So and then since then, I kind of.
You probably have to explain that to people all the time.
I know. So I have been through the complete doldrums when they're in, I think, Division 2.
Well, I'm still in the doldrums. I'm still in the doldrums with Watford. I don't think we've ever been out of the doldrums, really. But this was a particularly famous moment, actually, that a lot of people do know about. And I was there with my son behind the goal.
Yeah.
So it was the playoff semi-final in 2013, and literally in the final stages of the game, Leicester got a penalty.
Yeah.
And if they converted the penalty, they'd have won the match 3-2 and gone through to the final of the playoffs. So they had this penalty. Being a long-suffering Watford fan, it's just typical. You got penalty in the 90th minute.
Yeah.
He's going to score. It's all over, and we're going to watch it because we're behind it. So what happens is the keeper saved the penalty.
Yeah.
Then the ball came out, and it looked like it was harder to miss the rebound than even the penalty in the first place. And the keeper saved the rebound as well. And then the ball basically went straight out. Manuel Almunia, Spanish goalkeeper, threw it out. Watford went straight down the other end, and Troy Deeney scored. It's just one of the great moments. It's obviously one of the great moments for a Watford fan, but I think even a lot of non-Watford fans remember that Deeney goal. It was just such an incredible moment, really. And I nearly broke my leg falling down the stand at the time because it was just, it's just one of those things. It just didn't look like it was possible. You went literally from despair to incredible joy in the space of about 10 seconds, which is what sport's all about, really, isn't it? So it's a particularly great moment.
Brilliant.
That's my nomination for that.
Yeah. And who would play you in a film?
And the other one was film, actually.
Yeah,
famous. Lots of those. Actually, there's not lots of great, are there? But I picked Moneyball. Actually, I don't know if you've ever seen Moneyball. Have you ever seen?
I think that's brilliant. In fact, I've seen that about more than any other sports film. So I think I've seen that about 4 times. But it's brilliant. I never tire with seeing that film.
Yeah, so interesting with what goes on in football analysis, particularly football these days. Sports analysis, particularly football. The data that's involved.
I know.
So Moneyball was kind of.
I know it's about baseball, but
example of that, and it's a true story. It's a true story. I always enjoy it when it's a true story.
Yeah,
how this team, outwitted some of their bigger competitors by just recruiting smarter, on metrics.
Exactly.
Good examples of how that works these days, and obviously, data analysis is so important in all sport these days. But it's been a real driver for clubs like Brighton and so on, allowed them to compete with the Man Cities of this world who've got unlimited.
Yeah. Yes,
funds,
that's true.
That's another conversation.
Yeah,
but it just shows you can outsmart.
Yeah,
if you know how to use the numbers. I think in some ways that's probably a reasonable sort of segue back to us. We're not the biggest, but we definitely try and use data and be as smart as we can and go the extra mile. I think that's the great thing about. The most satisfying thing about our business. I think people appreciate it. People appreciate the fact you go the extra mile.
Yeah,
and then maybe,
also you've found your niche.
It's not used to it anymore.
Yeah.
People are not used to the fact that you will order them something. Or that's no problem. Of course we can. Of course we can do that. No problem. It's what we're in business for, really. It's something. 90% of things but the other 10% are not. And I think the independents usually do those other 10% really well.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the difference.
Mm. And I think, especially with the areas that where you are, Putney and Richmond, people do appreciate local businesses.
Yeah,
without a doubt. So
I think they do.
They do.
Yeah.
I know. We have a local butcher, and that kind of thing. They appreciate that personalised approach, and that local customer service.
They do.
Something.
And long may that continue. I think there's a bit of that came from COVID a bit, didn't it?
Yeah.
People appreciated some of their local stuff a bit more, maybe.
Yeah.
I think we're quite fortunate to be in the areas we're in a way, although again we did pick them.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right. I think the problem is, it's just retail's not easy. So
yeah,
the world does need to adjust. I sit on the Positively Putney board, which is a business improvement district for Putney. So I see sort of firsthand, some of the struggles that retail has. And obviously, it's not always plain sailing for us either. But it's just not easy. The rent's too high, particularly on the high street. The business environment's not easy. This year for retail is going to be quite a difficult year, I think, because the relief on rates comes down, so a lot of that will affect businesses. And really affect some of the big businesses quite a lot, which is not good news. So I'm not quite sure that some of those moves make a lot of sense. The rent and rates issue is a big issue for retail, and it's a barrier to entry. And some of those rates, if you look down the high street in Richmond, it's not quite what it was, is it?
No, it isn't.
We're still there, and I'm really proud of that. But I've seen so many people come and go, and it's sad, really. So go back to what I said. I think there's definitely going to be some retail, and the good ones will survive to some extent, I think. But there's just probably going to be less of it. We have to accept that, I think.
Yeah. Right. I could have talked to you for ages, but I think we're going to have to wrap up. I hope you've really enjoyed our conversation. And as I said, I will sort of, as I said, as I normally do, we will split the podcast into two. But thank you very much for coming on. If you want to, I don't know if you wanted to sort of promote your website, where you are, and if you have any other links you wanted to promote at this time.
Yes, obviously we're so it's Sporting Feet. We're in Putney and Richmond.
Yeah.
The web URL is www.sporting-feet.com. That's feet, FEET. So that's where we are, really.
Yeah, and I think there's various links to your Instagram and Facebook page and on the likes as well. So
they're all on our website. Those aspects, becoming more important to our business.
Right. Great. Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming, and I hope you've really enjoyed the podcast.
I have. Thank you. Yeah, good to talk to you. All the best.
Thank you. Bye. And that's a wrap for another exhilarating episode of Brian's Run Pod. Thanks for tuning in, folks. As always, we've got you back with all things running, and next week, get ready for some more awesome beginner hints and tips to kickstart your running journey. Don't forget, you can now send me a message. Yep, you heard it right. Brian's Run Pod has now become interactive with the audience. If you look at the top of the episode description, tap on Send Us a Text Message. You can now tell me what you think of the episode, or alternatively, what you would like covered. If you're lucky, I might even read them out on the podcast. Hey, if you want to keep up with all the latest updates, behind the scenes fun, and even some exclusive content, make sure to follow me on social media. We've also launched a shiny new Facebook page. Just simply search for Brian's Run Pod and give us a like. And don't forget to hop over to Instagram, where you can catch all our visual adventures at Brian's Run Pod. For those of you who love diving deep into the episodes, head over to our website, www.briansrunpod.co.uk, and there you'll find some detailed show notes and handy chapter markers, making it easy to navigate through your favourite discussions. Please leave a review, as it will help others find this podcast. Music is by Happy Day by Stock Audio, not forgetting artwork by Alice Patterson. And also thank you to my producer, Anna Patterson. So till next week, thanks again for listening.